Hey folks, Post here, welcome back to another Pokemon Masters video, and today we're going to go over some, speculation for the sync grid stuff, since, again, like, for the sync grid stuff, we don't have anything yet, but a lot of people just keep on asking me, oh, what do you think is going to happen, who do you think is going to benefit from that? So, I thought, I'll do a video on some of the units that I think would really benefit from the sync grid system whenever it comes out. They say it's supposed to come out sometime in January, but anyways, we don't know exact dates or whatever. But anyways, before that, let's do our daily discount summons. Let's pull on Grimsley's banner, which Grimsley could be one of those units that might really want a sync grid upgrade, right? Although I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna talk about tech units in this video, just because like tech units, the thing with tech units is like they're not generalists. Like they're all in here just to do some specific task or whatever, right? So it's hard for me to speculate and talk about how I can make tech units better when they're like not supposed to be better, which is kind of like their point. Their point isn't to be good. Their point is to be used in certain specific situations, not to be Lycanroc and just thrown into every battle and expect to like carry your team, right? So yeah, that's why I'm not gonna talk about tech units like Grimsley, even though Grimsley probably could use some help, and Grimsley will get help anyways, since the sync grid will buff stats, right? So even if it doesn't get any better moves or whatever, at least it got stats. So anyways, for those of you who don't know, sync grid is this thing that will come out soon. It's like some kind of, it's like a potential system, right? So let's see if I could find the announcement over here. Maybe it's on the next page. Okay, it's somewhere over here. Sync grid is this thing. So with sync, what they write over here with sync grid, you can strengthen your sync pairs however you want by using sync orbs. Not only can you improve stats with the sync grid, you can also learn new skills and power up certain moves and various other aspects of your sync pairs. So again, this is kind of ambiguous, the language over here. What is certain is that there's going to be stat boosts from the sync grid. That's pretty much certain. And you can power up certain moves, which is certain. The ambiguous part is you can learn new skills. So is it only passive skills, or do moves count as skills as well? So we're going to assume that it also counts, active skills, right? So let's get into this then. So we're going to talk about, I guess, 5 stars, just for the sake of this video, because, well, I don't have time to go over like a billion of them, but let's go over some 5 stars over here. If I could actually find a tab, or better showcase them, I don't know, maybe Dex. Okay, well, here's Dex. So let me actually sort them real quick. Let's not go by numbers. Let's go by roles. So again, we're not going to talk about attack units. We're mainly going to talk about strikers and supports. So to start this off, I think someone who would benefit greatly from getting new moves would be Chris. And I'm mainly going to talk about moves, not stats, because, well, everyone could benefit from better stats, right? And I would assume the stat increases would be pretty similar. I wouldn't think, one sync pair just has like so much more stats you get than another. So again, this is all just my speculation. I just don't think it's that relevant. So anyways, Feraligatr could use a different move than pick up the pace. Feraligatr overall would be a pretty insane, like a low-key pretty insane unit if it was more consistent. Like Mega Kick at max, that's 200 damage on a Mega Kick, which 167 when it's not max. But the biggest problem with Mega Kick is 75% accuracy. And they did fix it with Pick Up the Pace, where they made it that the next attack is a sure hit and a critical hit. So pick up the pace, X attack into Mega Kick is insane amounts of damage. Problem, you can only use Pick Up the Pace twice. It also sharply increases user speed as well. Just so Mega Kick is more, you can it's slightly more spammable. But you can only use this twice, and also like you have to use it every time before you mega kick, so that sometimes disrupts unities, or the timing for unities if you're playing in with randos, right? And not everyone's using Feraligatr. People are using different move orders, so that really screws that up for Feraligatr a lot. So what I would propose is pick up the pace, and then change it into some move that sharply raises user attack and raises crit and accuracy by 1, because if you raise it by 2, that's just absolutely broken, right? So we're keeping the sharply raised user speed, and instead of making the next 2 or I guess next 1, but you could use it twice, a sure hit and a critical hit, we're just gonna take it out, so it's not a sure hit nor a guaranteed critical hit, but you boost crit by 1, so crit and accuracy by 1. So after 2 of that new moves, you should have +4 speed, +2 accuracy, which is enough for Mega Kick to basically hit every single time. But again, you have to use it twice. And then, but the drawback is you don't guarantee crits. You're only at 80%. You're not at 100% guaranteed crit. You have a 20% chance of missing the crit, which is as frequent as Olivia missing a Stone Edge, basically, right? So either you do that, or just take this away and just give it like a regular stat boosting move, like Dire Hit Plus, like you just completely remove the accuracy thing and then remove the speed thing, and then just change Mega Kick into something slightly weaker. What's a good physical water type move other than Waterfall or Dive or whatever? I don't know, just some other water type move that's, I guess, 3 bars, because two bar moves, not that great unless you're a tech unit and it has some like additional effects, right? But overall, Feraligatr, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be a water type move, since Feraligatr does have water shift. Like if it keeps water shift, then I guess it could have like some other 3 bar move, like I don't know, Revenge or something. I don't know. So anyways, so either you change Mega Kick or you change Pick Up the Pace. Pick Up the Pace works perfectly with Mega Kick. Like, this is not a bad combo. It's just that it's very inconsistent, because again, and also limited. You use it twice and then you're done. All the Mega Kicks afterwards, 75% accuracy and no crit buffs. So very inconsistent there. So sometimes you might even just want to go with Waterfall, right? Just to make sure you don't screw up a run. So moving on, the next, I guess, pair of sync pairs that I want to talk about are pretty similar in the way I do want to rework them. Well, not rework them, but give them different moves with the sync grid, and that's actually Hilda and Alyssa. Obviously, the reason why I'm doing these two is, it's pretty obvious why I'm doing these two, because, and why, where they should probably have some move changes. It's their recoil, right? If they're not going to rework recoil in this move, then give us an option to just take out the recoil moves, because again, like, the recoil moves, like Wild Charge, user, like 125 power, 100 accuracy, physical electric type move, and takes 20% of the damage it dealt to the target. If you guys don't know how recoil works in this game, 20% of damage dealt to the target, like, if you compare the HP of enemy units, obviously harder difficulty enemy units, I'm not saying like, something in normal. If you compare like the health pool of enemy units to player units, it's insane. It's insane. It, like, 20% of their HP, which obviously factors in your damage, right? Because they can take a lot of hits, so they can take a lot of your damage. So that's why players just do so much damage per hit. But in comparison, in proportion to the HP bar, or they're in proportion to their max HP, it's not as crazy. But the raw numbers are big. So the recoil you take is pretty crazy. So I would just take out Wild Charge instead of, and this is max, we're at max. So instead of like a 150 power move, give it again just some other three bar move with, say at max 120 power. tone down the power a bit. You don't need any additional effects. Just don't recoil. And you could change electrifying to give an option to change out electrifying as well, because again, electrifying does work with wild charge. Wild charge, recoil, electrifying restores HP, right? So there's that. But also electrifying is kind of weird because I'm not a huge fan of electrifying. So usually what you do with Alyssa is come out a double X attack, and then the wild charge, and then electrifying. So your first hit isn't even a crit, because if you use electrifying first, then you're very likely wasting the HP regen, right? So unless you're just targeted and you just got like destroyed on the first turn, right? But it's kind of a waste of that. So I'm not a huge fan of electrifying wild charge combo. In comparison, I much more prefer Hilda's combo, even though Hilda obviously doesn't have crit, which is terrible. But potion, you don't need any conditions over there, right? You could just do your thing. Actually, you kind of do. You have to flame charge like 3 times before. But anyways, that's like Hilda. We'll get to Hilda in a bit. But replace wild charge with something that doesn't recoil, and then just replace this with like dire hit plus or something, right? We don't even need the HP regen thing, since Zeb Strike is pretty bulky enough anyways. So moving on to Hilda, again, same issue with recoil, right? Except for Hilda, it's like Flare Blitz. So again, just swap this out for some other fire type move. It's not max. Let's go to max. At max, 147 damage. This is 25% recoil, which is even worse. Does have a small chance of leaving target burned, which most fire type moves will have that side effect anyways. So it's probably gonna also burn the opponent potentially. But again, just lower its max damage to around 120 or so, maybe even 115 if you really think the burn thing is that significant. And there's nothing wrong with. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this combo, since you have to like flame charge 3 times and then go try and stop us just to raise that. That's like, I mean, sure, you're getting both speed and attack as well, but I don't know. I guess it's not that big of a deal. And then maybe you could keep potion, I guess, but obviously if you want to make Embor extremely good, you could replace potion with dire hit plus, right? As far as passive skills are fine. Maybe first aid, you could swap it for something else. But anyways, we're not going to talk too much about passive skills, because if you want to if you want to make a sync pair good, just slap on impervious, right? Every sync pair, slap on impervious. So again, that's my only commentary on that. Moving on. So the third unit I would probably want to improve is Lance and Dragonite. So Lance and Dragonite is good in the right circumstances. Like Lance and Dragonite, it's either really, really good or absolute trash in co-op, right? If you're playing with randos and everyone's just bringing Dragonite, and obviously you're not facing like EX Clear or whatever, and there's no supports or whatever, you're like screwed, right? You don't have any stat increases, you don't have any whatevers. You have to cut your HP in half every time if you want to use Hyper Beam and not wait like 5 minutes in between. That's an exaggeration, but you get the point, right? And also Hyper Beam 90%. So for Dragonite, obviously give it some stat boosting moves so you don't have to run supports with it, make it more self-sustainable. Give it obviously Dire Hit X, Special Attack Plus, whatever, right? Or Special Attack X. All that stuff, whichever you want to throw in there. And then take Hyper Beam away, give it like something else, give it like Draco Meteor or something. Although I guess Dragonite doesn't seem too much of a Draco Meteor guy, but still, just some, I was about to say Outrage, but no, don't give it Outrage, please don't give it Outrage. But if you want to like a special attack, Dragon type special attack, again, Draco Meteor is not a terrible choice, right? So something like that, right? Dragonite's pretty easy fix. Or pretty simple, I guess. Just Hyper Beam. Now, like this is a fine setting solo if you have supports, or even if you're playing in an organized group, and the folks who you're playing with, people are bringing in supports. Dragonite will do a lot of damage. If not, Dragonite's just going to struggle and potentially risk itself tremendously every time it comes onto the court. So, moving on. So, we talked about Chris, we talked about Alyssa, we talked about Dragonite. I guess the last two I'm going to talk about over here are these guys. So, let's first talk about Stoutland. Or these guys, I mean support. Few support. So, Stoutland is pretty bad. So what Stoutland does is mainly kind of like a healer like support. Like you have full heal, which removes all status conditions, and then you have apply yourself. So first of all, full heal is just not great. Like in comparison, if you compare it to Marley, oh my Marley's 4-star, but if you compare it to Marley just has a better move as we're standing strong, which blocks status conditions on allied fields, removes all status conditions, even though you can only use it once, but you know it's usually enough to last like 90% of, or at least 80% of the battle, right? So against and again with Marley in co-op, you could just throw Marley, you could start with Marley, do we're standing strong together, and swap out, then start DPSing or supporting, right? But with Stoutland, you have to just keep the guy in there, like, or you either keep the guy in there or swap the guy back in when someone else is status, right? So it's a complete waste of fun. Like Marley, a 3-star has a better move than a 5-star. Like why? What the heck, right? As for apply yourself, this increases move gauge of allied sync pairs. So again, what he's trying to do mostly is heal and then increase move gauge situations, right? For yourself as well as teammates, right? So what I think support should do, like right now, healing is just not that big of a deal. Healing is not that big of a deal just because of, you know, how I guess just basically because like the meta is just so damage focused at the moment. It's not stally, it's not whatever. If you're trying to stall, you're just gonna get sync moved and then have all your stat buffs wiped. So healing is not that relevant in this meta, unfortunately. So again, just maybe just change this into we're standing strong. That would make Stoutland instantly much better. And maybe change apply yourself to, or have an option to take out apply yourself for just some standard stat buffing move. It could be, you know, if you're trying to go with move gauge, you could do something like plus move gauge and also plus speed. That would be really, really good, right? For those who don't have Rosa Delibird, that would be a good option. That would be a good replacement for Rosa Delibird, right? A free-to-play option, obviously not going to be as good as Rosa Delibird, but, you know, still a decent option, right? I think, you know, speed plus move gauge recovery would be cool, or just some standard dire hit all, right? You can't be dire hit plus all, you know, just dire hit all, or X attack all, X special attack all, whatever, right? So, moving on to Glalie. So Glalie is probably the worst summonable 5-star in the game. It's just kind of unfortunate. And again, Glalie is basically, I wouldn't say entirely this in the same group as Charon. So these, I would also group these two together. Again, regen's just not that great. What Glalie's trying to do is just to taunt and then like tank / regen. Even though like Glalie's stats for tanking isn't terrible, but it's just extremely situational. Again, if we want to make some of these supports, and I'm not saying it's bad, it could have uses, but it's again extremely niche, and we're in a DPS meta. You're like, instead of like taunting and trying to save your other two teammates from getting hit, why not just let it hit one of your, screw it, let it hit whoever it wants, but you also have a third DPS just to increase your damage overall, right? So again, niche in some situations, but just not that useful. So instead of having this, maybe just give it another just buff move, right? Either it's speed, either it's again crit, accuracy. An accuracy buffer would be really, really much appreciated, right? Especially with the new units like Dragonite, right? Accuracy buff would be great. Solgaleo, right? Even though Solgaleo can do it itself, but again, move gauge issue. And also stuff like Pinsir, right? Which Pinsir would be much, much better if Fury Cutter was 100%, but it's not. So there's that. 95% still not terrible, but it's not 100%. Lycanroc, all those folks could use accuracy buffs, although Lycanroc probably wouldn't need it because it's gonna hard as diamonds anyways. And then maybe change X regen all to, again, something like we're standing strong, or just potion. How about just a potion instead? Although X regen all is not terrible, but the amount it recovers every time it procs is just not enough to tank a hit for. So anyway, so that's Glalie. And the last group I do want to talk about are Garchomp, Bloom Pidgeot, and Houndoom and Karen. So these three have one thing in common, which they are the only Mega 5-star strikers, and they are also the only AoE strikers, AoE 5-star strikers. What a coincidence. So, proposal, really simple. Make it so that it's much more usable before it megas. Give it like a non-AoE move that does decent damage. That's all we want. Just give it some decent non-AoE move, which it can, like, again, AoE moves, sure, you could let it use it in single player or whatever, or again, Synchron's is not like replacing these moves completely. You could swap them whenever you want. You could bring them back whenever you want. But and especially Karen, like Karen's Snarl isn't like, Karen honestly looks like a tech more than a striker, if it weren't for its pretty good offensive stats, right? But like Snarl, she just does no damage before she megas at all. She just does not do damage, which is unfortunate. So again, just give them like some single target move and make it so that they're just not terrible before they mega. So anyways, that's me for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If there's any other 5-star sync pairs that you probably hope would, become more useful with, or not useful, just, more improved with the sync grid update and all that. And let me know if you guys want to see more of these kind of videos. I could go through some, 4 stars, 3 stars as well, and all that stuff, although larger pool, but, it'll take some time to go through them. But anyways, again, that's me for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like and enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel for some more Pokemon Masters content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.